Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's Sip and Solve. Today, we're going to be focused on the challenges and techniques around finding a business. Not just that, but we're going to be helping you with strategies to find the perfect match on businesses you're looking for, ultimately improving your bottom line. This all being said, I'm Kyle Blanchard, a product manager here at Experian, and I have my colleague Manish Raswan here with me to help dive into some of these details. Manish, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kyle. I'm Manish Raswan, Senior Director for Search Engineering and Architecture, and finding businesses is my bread and butter.
That's right, Manish. Looking forward to leveraging some of that expertise. So I've got my vanilla latte here sitting next to me, and I'm ready to dive in. Manish, how about you?
Absolutely, Kyle. I have my extra hot chai latte ready to go.
Great. We don't have much time until I finish this coffee, so let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start today with a situation that a lot of you are likely facing today, with an influx of small businesses seeking support from COVID-19. Let's say there's a new customer that fills out a basic online application, and they're looking to establish a line of credit for their business, Main Street Sandwiches. You collect the necessary information with your sales team, gain an understanding of the business, collect the necessary financials, and now you're ready to run a business credit check. You take your basic business information and plug it into the Business Credit Bureau to get a credit report back, right? Well, in most cases, yes. But in some cases, it's a bit more tricky than that. Let's get into why that is. Let's imagine I took the information here and I typed it in, and I got some results back. You'll see after typing in our information, we actually received 4 potential matches back. Let's go through some of these matches and see which one is best for us. There's 2 right off the bat that I see we can eliminate right away, Main Street and Main Street Associates. These have a similar name to what we're looking for, but they don't look like sandwich shops to me, and they're on the wrong street. But what about the others? This is where it gets a bit more complicated. We have one that matches on the address we're looking for, and the other matching on the name we're looking for. Which one do we choose? How can we be confident that we found the right one? Sally's Sandwich Shop sells sandwiches for sure, so at least we have that. It also has the address we're looking for too, so I think in this case, maybe I'd select that business. The other Main Street Sandwiches is all the way in Barstow, and for those that don't know, that's a long, long ways from San Francisco. But the real question is, what do we do now? Would you be comfortable pulling the report on Sally's Sandwich Shop? It's important for you to have confidence when pulling that report, and that's really how we're getting the credit history of the business. But are we confident that we found the right business here? That's the real question we're trying to answer. Maybe you now have to talk to the customer directly and get some additional clarification before you select Sally's Sandwich Shop. It'll work for sure, but it's going to slow you down. Or maybe you now have to shift to a personal guarantee and require a report on the business owner. Of course, you have to go back to the customer and collect their personal information. Not to mention they probably have some hesitancy around this as the personal guarantee changes the nature of the deal. Or maybe due to your credit policy, you have to turn the deal away entirely. Regardless of what path you choose, it's not really what you want. You expect to find the right business the first time, and if you don't, it has the potential to really slow you down. And that, my fellow coffee drinkers, is the real problem. Not being able to find a business with confidence and accuracy can really impact your bottom line, whether it's slowing down your decisions or preventing you from making a credit decision altogether. That's why it's incredibly important to understand how to increase your ability to match on a business, a percentage we call match rate. Match rate is, essentially, your ability to accurately match on a business. By increasing your match rate, you're increasing the amount of businesses that you can evaluate at the top of the funnel. Match rate is also crucial for any of your automation activities because a lower match rate means that automated processes have to require some level of manual intervention. Or it's crucial in portfolio monitoring. The higher match rate means you can more accurately assess your entire portfolio.
I would argue that the match rate is important for nearly all activities, Kyle. It's one of my most important metrics, something that our team monitors on a daily basis. If a customer can match, they can do business.
Yeah, that's a really fair point, Manish. And that being said, with the match rate's level of importance, how can one impact or improve their match rate?
There are a variety of variables that affect your match rate. The data you and as the customer have on the business, the data that's available on the business in the bureau database, and the underlying search match technology using to find the business.
Those 3 variables make sense to me, but if those are the variables that influence match rate, how can I improve my match rate to obtain this better ROI?
The challenge is that only one of these variables are under your direct control. For item 2 and 3, you have less ability to influence these and are likely dependent on the bureau you're searching with. However, the variables that is under your direct control, the search inquiry itself, is one of the most important elements that can have a direct impact on your match rate. There are steps that everybody can take to improve their match rate. Let me explain. Kyle, I'm sure you have heard the common phrase, finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, of course I have.
Well, imagine that challenge, but increased tenfolds. Finding a needle in a haystack is relatively easy. What if instead you had to find single needle amongst millions of other needles? When finding a needle in a haystack, it's straightforward. The needle is a very different than the hay which surrounds it, so it is easy, right? However, when finding a needle in a stack of millions of others, you have different requirements. You need a very different description of exactly what you're looking for, and you need an efficient way to sort it out of the pile. The same challenge is true when finding a business. The problem isn't finding the business. The problem is describing the business accurately and with sufficient amount of details, and having a system powerful enough to do the matching and sorting. And this creates the challenges. It is incredibly hard to pinpoint the exact characteristics of a business. Let's just jump back to our Main Street sandwiches and we can learn more. Can you tell me the history of the business?
Yeah, I sure can, Manish. Let's say in this case, I went back and I called Main Street Sandwiches and I got a better understanding of their business. It turns out Main Street Sandwiches has been around for a long time. They started out small, selling sandwiches as a sole proprietorship out of a residence as a meal prep service. After some initial success, they decided to open their retail location, which they called Sally's Sandwich Shop. Sally's Sandwich Shop saw a great amount of success at that retail location, but they really wanted to position themselves to take it to the next town over. So they changed their name to Main Street Sandwiches and are now looking to open their next location. That's when they came to me and applied for credit.
So you see how the business is changing over time? This makes pinpointing the business more challenging. Let's look at what you just said. If you look at Sally's Sandwich Shop, its identity has changed over time. Initially, the business was sole proprietorship at one address, then it opened a new location with a new name, and finally they renamed themselves at their current location. So for this example, there are three unique sets of identity information around this business. In this case, the new name, Main Street Sandwiches, has probably not been reported on enough by the creditors to take foothold as a primary name of the business. The data may be available, but it is too new to be recognized as primary name. Even in a simple example like this, the business has had 3 different names and 2 different addresses. Using this new information, why don't we return to our match results?
Yes, going back to the match results we got previously, it is starting to make sense. Obtaining this extra information and detail about the business was crucial to help isolate the business amongst the stack. It's pretty clear to me now that our hunch was correct. Sally's Sandwich Shop was the correct business to select. That is the business I'm looking for.
And that's the important thing to take away. You must understand the anatomy of the business and how it changes. When you're equipped with this information, you will be better prepared to find the right business. In a typical case, the business is identified by its name and address. Let's just pick the first identifier, business name. The business name has the business might have a legal name of Sally's Sandwich Shop, but it's doing business as Main Street Sandwiches. There is also the data in the system for original sole proprietorship under Sally Smith. Business name is a value that will change over time. It may also be reported differently. For example, what if Sally's Sandwich Shop also went by Sally's? Businesses often go by short names and their legal names or trade names, and that may be different. Name and address are both examples of flexible identity elements. These change over time. And there is plenty of other identity elements, each with their own complications. Kyle, why don't you dive into some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one that stands out the most right off the bat is tax identification number. Tax identification number, or TIN, as an identifier has a variety of challenges when it comes to identifying a business. The challenge with TIN generally has to do with the complicated structure that businesses often take on as they grow. A parent company will have a different tax identification number than its subsidiaries, and the parent company may be all that's reported. The TIN may be useful for identifying a component of a business, but maybe not the exact business that you're looking for. Finally, when it comes to smaller businesses or sole props, the TIN is often just the Social Security number of the consumer, complicating matters further. Other ambiguous elements, phone number, website, and the context of business are definitely helpful in identifying that business, no doubt about it. The challenge is that these are all dynamic elements, and they typically can't be the sole thing that you rely upon. A business may have many phone numbers, and these phone numbers can continually change or be reassigned. The same goes for web domains and contacts. We generally consider these to be additive elements. They are helpful in pinpointing the result, but they typically are the primary thing that you rely upon. Finally, you have an element like third-party IDs. Think of something like a stock ticker symbol. This is a unique element that identifies the business, but the challenge with it is that it's very unreliable. It's unlikely for a business to have one, so you can't rely on this as your sole piece of information to identify or find a business. When searching for a business, you really have to take all of this information into account. As Manish was saying, it all starts with the business name and address. You have to have a decent understanding of the various names and addresses a business may have. For the other elements, you should try and gather these whenever and wherever possible. But really now, it's a matter of taking this understanding and this knowledge and using it to create the best search inquiry possible. For this, we have 4 simple strategies. 1, uniqueness really matters. The more information you can provide about a business, the easier it will be for the system and for you to separate it from the pack. 2, start specific, then go broad. You have to start as specific as possible with your inquiry with all of the information that you have. If you can't find it, start removing some elements and broaden your search. This will help you understand the environment of what's available and might help you find the business you're looking for. 3, try different combinations. If you have a variety of addresses and a variety of names, you might have to try different combinations to pinpoint the business you're looking for. This is relevant for our example that we showed here today with Sally's Sandwich Shop and Main Street Sandwiches. And finally, sometimes the final result might not make sense. If we had known the history of the business or acquired some more information, you might have to go back and ask the business for this additional information. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the more information you can provide, the better. In addition to that, the more knowledge you have about the business you're looking for and its changing structure over time, you'll be well equipped to track down your exact business. And really, Manish, this is something that anyone can implement today, but I think there's another layer and there's another thing happening on top of this in the background. I'd really like you to help us get and see what other variables impact match rate and what can help improve it.
I'm glad you asked, Kyle. Despite all the strategies we talked about here, finding a business still remains challenging. So often, you need another layer of technology and innovation in the background to really pinpoint the business amongst its many variations. The example we listed today was simple, but some businesses may have an incredibly complex structure, hundreds of names, many locations, and more. So how do we perform this complicated task? I would try to be as concise as possible without going too much into the weeds. So remember, 3 key elements to improve match rate that were discussed previously. Your search inquiries, understanding the data in the system you're interacting with, better search match technology. And let's say you have done your part and provided the best inquiry to the system. Now let's see how a well-tuned search match system will find the correct business with high confidence. As first step, the identity data elements go through some type of standardization process. We standardize names, addresses, and other inquiry elements and clean up any punctuation, extra spaces. And then the inquiry goes through a process of selecting best candidates from the identity database. It is very much dependent on how the search match system is tuned to fully take advantage of data in the identity system. It uses traditional algorithms like phonetic similarities such as SoundX, Metaphone, etc., or edit distance algorithms that account for misspelling, typos, or transpositions such as Levenstein distance, Jacquard similarity, etc., and many more natural language processing algorithms as well. These traditional methods are then combined with more advanced search match technologies like deep neural network, branch of AI to generate superior match quality results. Advancement in big data to store and process huge amount of data, and the advanced search match techniques have boosted the effectiveness of search match systems in finding high quality matches in a fraction of time compared to its predecessors. These search match systems are dynamic in nature and can improve their outcome over time with feedback from the customer and additional data points. So taking our previous example, this is how when we queried for Main Street sandwiches, it was able to find a very high confident match of Sally's Sandwich Shop. So here you go. All you wanted to know about our good search match engine can help you increase quality matches, in turn boosting your ROI.
Wow. So much goes on behind the scenes after all we've done after I press enter to search for a business. But I think really the million-dollar question for you, Manish, is it worth it? Let's say I take everything we learned here today. I implement an improved search match strategy. I use my additional knowledge about the business. And I'm using a system that uses the complex search match techniques you're describing here today. Let's say I see a match rate lift of 2%. What does that mean for me?
Hey, Kyle, that's a great question. What does that mean for you? For the past couple of years, we have spent quite a bit of R&D dollars and effort to create a search match system named OneSearch. As we are rolling it out to our client channels, it is showing some very impressive outcomes. Depending upon the portfolio, it is producing high quality results with about 2% to 10% lift in the match rate. And that's not all, it is fast. It is processing data between 2 to 10 times faster. Let's do a quick back of the napkin calculation. Let's say you are a lender with a portfolio of 1 million businesses and you make about $50 per month per business. A lift of mere 2% additional business matches, which is at the lower end of spectrum, can translate to about $1 million additional revenue per month. Isn't that amazing? Not only it helps you as a lender, but also it helps your clients, the small businesses. If you can find them through our OneSearch system, they can get the financing they need to get back on track during this difficult COVID-19 situation.
I think that number about speaks for itself, Manish. It's really incredible stuff and an incredibly important challenge that you're tackling. And really, that's all Manish and I had for everyone today. We really appreciate you spending your break with us and really hope you're able to understand really why good match rates directly translates to a better ROI. If you have any questions or want to learn more about what we talked about here today, feel free to use the link you see here to chat with us. Also, if you want to get notified of future sessions, make sure you join the list. For me, it's time to grab another coffee. Thanks, everyone.